Right, Yoroshiku onegaishimasu. Welcome to the Sunday Talk from Daishu-in West. I'm Koju. It's another beautiful Sunday here at the temple. Hot, cool mornings though. It will be hot until September. So as a young training monk, it's difficult, as all the accounts attest to, and it's difficult in different ways. Sometimes it's difficult because people are mean and everybody hears about that, but sometimes it's difficult because it's boring, or seems pointless, or you're involved in activity that you don't really understand the reason for, and that could be said of the entire experience, frankly. For what reason am I engaged in this activity? And I talk, a fair amount about doing things without attachment to the end result of our action. That is, just doing them for the sake of themselves and not to try and get somewhere. Not a goal-oriented action, but activity. It's the journey, right? Everybody says it's the journey, and it is the journey. It's not wrong. It's just kind of cliche. But it's different to say that than to say, to call attention to the fact that we should remind ourselves that the activity itself is the point, and to not just fixate on what we expect to get out of the activity. So why exert ourselves and go through terrible things? All of human life often seems like just maintenance. And it's a constant struggle against disease and entropy and the tendency of things to just deteriorate and fall apart. And it's a legitimate question. Well, why work so hard to maintain something good and beautiful in the face of that disintegration? Everybody that comes to the temple is going to die. Everybody that learns what we have to teach, everybody that refines something, that becomes something, develops a refined skill, or learns something that is worth passing on to other people, all those people are going to die. So what is the point of civilization? Of there being anything at all? And it's better than the alternative, for one thing, which is just nihilism and chaos. But still, this is sort of end result thinking, right? It's like, well, what is it good for? Like, what does it get for us in the end? And it's beside the point. Maybe it's in there somewhere, part of the point. It's nicer to have beautiful and things that were made with attention and skill than it is otherwise. And the only way that happens is by exertion of effort. Whether that is, in the case of a carpenter, learning to work with wood. A mason works with stone, and it's a famous saying. And the practitioner, the spiritual practitioner, works with themselves. Which, all those things, all human exertion, in its way, is the same thing. It's just that the monk does it consciously and intentionally. And there are all kinds of end results we could suppose that will occur from that activity. I remember being asked when I first got to Japan, and I think I said something like, I want to know my true nature, or something like that. And that's, I mean, fine. It's a fine answer. But when you get right into that, if the person who asked me that was to turn and be like, well, what does that mean? What is your true nature, and how does this relate? How would you, what's the connection there? How would doing this result in that? What do you think about that? What is this thing that you're trying to learn about? And how do you know that this activity will lead you to that end result? I would have had a very, very hard time answering, what exactly I was talking about and why I was doing what I was doing for that. It just sounds good. It was just, an answer that sounds good, but actually did not have any real substance there. And I mean, that's all answers. All intellectual answers are the same way. The picture of the food does not fill the stomach, right? All the intellectualizing about end states or what could come from an activity is not fulfilling. Before there are those cognizations, those cognitive ideas about things, about why, about reason or motivation or whatever. Before any of that, there is already a karmic affinity. There is already a link with that thing. Obviously, it's already there. We're already connected to it and doing it, or it has already made an effect on us. And simply by that connection, that link, it's already present. It's already manifest in our life. And I mean, this is happening all the time, eternally, moment by moment. Different facets of that link, that karmic connection, are manifesting in different ways, over and over and over again, in showing different sides, this side, that side, eternally changing, but always right before our nose and completely revealed to us. And then we have these ideas about things, these cognitive ideas about what that is, and we get all caught up in them. And it's like, oh, well, I am attracted to doing ceramics, and that is because blah, 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 and this, that, and the other thing, and I hope to be able to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? But that's all after the fact. It, is that connection to a thing is already manifest, is already there. And it's the same way with action, or with relationships with people. Like the people in our lives that we love, we might have these ideas about how great they are and why we care about them and what they do for us, the end result sort of thinking. But before there was any of that, there was already a connection. That person, that partner in our life who we've been with for 20 years, not in my case, but in many people's cases, we start to get a sense for, when it gets to that level of a relationship with someone or something, the reasons become sort of irrelevant. That is that person. They are in my life because they are that person. This thing is in my life because it is this thing. This is what I am doing. This is who I am with. And that's just how things are. There might be reasons also, but the presence, the immediacy of that isness, that relationship, transcends any reason. And there might also be reason to. And that's fine. And everything is this way. Everything that we ever experience, everything that ever comes up, that shows itself to us, that we experience, is this way. And so in that way, using the expression, saying love is not really a mistake. Those things that have appeared for us, that we have that N with, that karmic affinity with, they are immediate love. It is showing love. 100%. Simply by that link, that it's like a reconciliation. We are able to lose ourselves. It's not quite right either. Well, the I idea disappears into that relationship. And so we start to see that we make the ideas about the thing the main event in our life, and we spend 90% of our time playing around with them and debating them and playing. But the actual meat of living is before that, in this intimacy with that which appears in our life. It's not quite right either. But because there is no separation. It's not quite right because there is no separation between that which appears in my life and my life. They are the same. That's what that karmic link is. That appears is already our life. So while we might wonder when we're when we embark on a particular learning, whether it's learning to draw, or learning to throw pots, or learning to be a monk, or learning to saw wood, or whatever it is, we might wonder why. It's going to be hard. Trying to do anything new is hard. Stepping out of your comfort zone is hard. And so there will be times when we wonder, well, why am I stepping out of my comfort zone? Why am I not just remaining safe? Well, for one, it's futile. And for the second, because there is this intimacy, and because we're caught up in the delusion of a separate myself, we then respond with a craving for intimacy because we feel separated and excluded and alone. So naturally there's a yearning for intimacy because we've already postulated our separation from everything else. So we create the problem and then we're trying to resolve it. And that connection shows us that the intimacy already exists. And through that, the refinement of that connection, that intimacy is realized. And the separation is forgotten. The pretend separation. The separation that was never really separation is forgotten. So, and it's not something that happens once, of course. It's something that we constantly are coming back to and refining. This is just what I do. And then we get caught up again in all the reasons and debating, well, maybe I should do it differently. Maybe I should do it and make that the main event. Well, maybe there's some advantage to that. Maybe there's some reason for that. That's also coming up right now too. Fine. Okay, is that enough now? Meanwhile, back to what I was doing. This is what my life is. And to that, there can be some degree of commitment and surrender. And then all conflict is resolved. But first we need to have a sense of that affinity. Have a sense of that and there's an opening and a relaxing into it. And then the fluff, the thinking on top of it, is not so important. It happens and it's not a problem. Or it doesn't happen and that's not a problem either. But we know what it is that we are about. Arigato gozaimasu. Okay, next Sunday, I'll put up another talk. I think we have three more Sundays before more Nagasoko Roshi's Maisaiki on the 13th of July. And then we have a sesshin starting right after that on July 15th. So if you're interested in attending the ceremony or coming for sesshin, please send me an email at the contact at Daishu-in West.org and we can set something up. Yoroshiku onegai itashimimasu.